YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back. Today I got my Green Bay Packers record prediction going game by game for the 2021 season. Also going to do best case and worst case scenario, in my opinion. Doing this for every single team. So obviously right here we're starting the NFC North. And there's a playlist full of each team that I do, of course. And then we'll move on to playoff predictions, Super Bowl predictions, and player rankings heading into the season, things like that. You guys will also basically create a video. You guys are voting for who wins each division, who gets what seed in the playoffs, who wins each round of the playoffs. So essentially creating your own playoff predictions there through our Twitter. So make sure you follow that. It's on your screen right now. There's also a link down below. And then smash that like button, subscribe. That'd be much, much appreciated. But yeah, here's our Twitter. Constant NFL news and updates. I'm expecting some moves this week, including a Julio Jones trade. So you're going to want to follow our Twitter to get that instant news and reaction to all of that. Again, link down below. PlayoffPredictors.com, the website we're using for all these videos here. Packers. Aaron Rodgers situation, definitely interesting. I'm not one buying into too much of it. Obviously, he's not happy. But I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to be the starting quarterback at the Green Bay Packers week 1. So that's how I'm predicting this. A little bit different offensive line. You know, they're very good at developing guys and coaching, but mainly without Corey Linsley, maybe a little bit of a change at right tackle. They do have some versatile players, but I'm not really too worried about it. But, you know, where they let us all down is, I guess, in the Buccaneers game, the playoffs. But remember, Bakhtiari was out. He's coming back. So some changes there. You know, I like that. You know, they didn't really add in the spots where they were kind of weak at, you know, looking at D-line, opposite, you know, other than Kenny Clark, inside linebacker, did add a corner in Stokes. I do like adding Amari Rodgers in terms of the offensive side of the ball there. But they got to get over that hump. Back-to-back NFC Championship games. We'll see if they did enough to do that. Definitely a tougher schedule we've noticed for the NFC North team. So here I'm going to go through my predictions, and then we'll circle back and do best case. We obviously know the best case can be pretty damn good for the Packers, and we'll circle back and do worst case. Packers-Saints week 1 had a pretty entertaining game last year, prime time between the two sides there. We get to see this is an interesting one. We're going to get to see Jameis Winston most likely, maybe a little more of a downfield passing game for the Saints. Do they have the receivers to have success there? Though that's kind of the question. They do have Michael Thomas. So week 1, though, it's kind of a tough game plan for against the Saints because it's just a totally different Saints team, maybe with a different type of passing game with Jameis Winston, we should say. They did lose quite a few players due to the cap situations. This should be a pretty good game. I'm going to take the Packers. There's maybe some adjustments to this somewhat new look Saints team, but they are tough to play really early on because it's not, we're so used to, it's pretty much the same game plan every single week against the Saints for the last how many years. It's a little different now. But Packers, it's a tough animal, tough team to play there in week 1 where you got to make some adjustments. Monday, I'm surprised this is Monday Night Football, to be honest. I'll take the Packers over the Lions. Packers, 49ers. Had this one in my mind already. Was thinking about this one already. 49ers gave the Packers some big-time troubles, a couple years ago when they were fully healthy. They play them early on, the 49ers, that is, which means they're probably fully healthy. Their pass rush presented problems to the Packers' offensive line. They were able to pound the football pretty successfully. Packers really couldn't do anything on either side of the ball against them. So I was kind of thinking, playing the Niners early on, they're healthy. That presents some problems, and it does present some problems. But I'm kind of changing my mind here. I'm actually going to go with the Packers in this one. I think they kind of get, and that was 2 years ago when the Niners gave them problems. But that front seven's pretty dangerous there. But the Niners got some questions at quarterback here. They might be better off with a guy like Trey Lance at this point because it'd be a tough game plan for the Packers. Trey Lance running the ball, I think, could be pretty effective against the Packers. I'm thinking it's probably going to be Garoppolo. He seemed to almost decline since a couple years ago. I think, arm talent obviously didn't decline, but kind of staying the same, and teams kind of figuring him out, more of a game plan, more game film to figure him out, really. And he's had some injuries too, so I don't know if the 49ers get enough offense. I do think the Packers could, hold it down, and get figure out a way to get more offense against the 49ers compared to when we see them play them last year, but the last time they were healthy. So I'm actually going to go with the Packers here. Last year's game didn't really feel like a revenge game because the 49ers were depleted, but this one could be that revenge game. Steelers, Packers. I'm going to go with the Packers. I think they'll get good pass rush on defense in this game. They'll hold it down in the secondary. I also, think the Steelers could get some good pass rush, but I think the Packers just do enough on the, offensively, getting those points where the Steelers really just can't keep up. Not saying the Packers scored an insane amount of points in this game, but yeah. Against the Bengals. This one, I actually think the Bengals can get a decent amount of more offense than you would think going in a game like this, but just not enough to keep up with the Packers here. They're on a streak, 5-0. Packers-Bears is a tough one. Division rival. It's definitely been the Packers all the way the last couple of years. It really depends on who's at quarterback for the Bears. I'm thinking Andy Dalton. Even if it's Justin Fields, you can't expect the rookie to do too much in a big-time game against the Packers, but I do think they'd be better off against the Packers than Andy Dalton. I just don't like the matchup for the Bears in these games because the Packers obviously have the offense to score on the Bears' defense. The Bears' defense seems to be slightly declining as well, but we already know, even when it wasn't, the Packers could score on them. And I do think the Packers can play well enough on defense. They got a very good secondary. The safety group and corner group very solid, and they can hold it down there. I think they'll be able to get pressure on the outsides. That Darius Smith could cause problems there, obviously, with Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith as well. I just like the way the Packers match up on both sides of the ball against them. The Bears are going to try to pound the football, but it doesn't really work against the Packers when they play the Packers because only works if you're making your opponent play keep up. But the Packers are, when they play the Bears, they make the Bears play keep up. So that's kind of the problem there. I'll take the Packers. This is where I got the first loss. It's home, but I think Washington will get some really good pass rush here. The Packers offensive line has been top tier, but when they play, the top tier pass rushes, in big games, they seem to struggle a little bit actually. So I think Washington gets enough pressure. I think it's a defensive game here, and that'll be the difference. Thursday night football against the Cardinals is definitely one that can go either way. Could Kyler Murray create some problems with his scrambling and his running ability? I definitely think that's a possibility. If the Packers were home on Thursday night, I would go with the Packers. I'm feeling the Cardinals at home Thursday night football here. I think Kyler Murray could be a little bit of a problem for them. This is probably a shootout, though. I think Rodgers is obviously a problem for the Cardinals secondary. Yeah, it's back and forth. I can really see that either team really finding a way to put up 30-plus, 40 points maybe. This could be an absolute shootout. It could be like that Cardinals-Seahawks we've seen at this point of last year, which was a primetime game as well. It could be very similar. That's one I can change my mind on kind of back and forth. We'll circle back and do best case. I did have we had such a big winning streak, and I have a losing streak now. I got the Chiefs winning this one. I think another absolute shootout. I trust the Chiefs' offense a little more here. Love that the Chiefs upgraded. They got healthy on the offense line, plus they upgraded it. I got the Packers against the Seahawks. I like that matchup for the Packers. The Seahawks, 1 week they're a dominant offense team, 1 week they're a very good defensive team. Can they find that balance? Even if they find that balance in a game like this, I trust the Packers more offensively, and I trust the Packers more defensively. So I will take the Packers in this game. Packers-Vikings, they split last year, and they both won away games against each other. I think it's the opposite this year, so that gives away my other one. I think they split again, but I think they win their home game this year. Packers could win both, definitely could win both. And the Vikings, the second time they played, it felt like they figured out a pretty good game plan for them, but the Vikings defense is definitely upgraded this year. I think they split. It's my prediction. If somebody's going to go 2-0, we think it'd be the Packers there. Rams-Packers. This is also one, when I initially saw the schedule, kind of like the Niners one, I was kind of thinking Rams because the Rams, they're going to present that defense where they can get pass rush on Aaron Rodgers, and they upgrade their offense with Matthew Stafford. But the Packers figured out again, in the playoffs, something against that Rams defense. They were able to, the Rams at that time had the best defense in football, but they were able to show us, okay, we can expose some things even in this great defense. It felt like they needed to upgrade pretty much the interior minus Aaron Donald, mainly the inside linebacker position. They didn't really do that. I think the Packers could continue to find even more success on offense against this Rams defense. And they are familiar with Stafford. I do think Stafford could have a good game here, but I'm actually going to go with Packers at home. If it was in L.A., maybe the Rams in that one, but I'm going to go with Packers in that one. Bye week, the Bears definitely could beat the Packers once. I go off matchup most of the time. And I just like the way the Packers match up on both sides of the ball. They can score on this Bears defense. They're going to make the Bears play keep up. It's not a team that's going to win playing keep up. And I do think the Bears defense is still on the good side for sure, but I definitely think, no Fuller is tough in games like this, I think they're going to miss him. Packers, Ravens, definitely one that can go back and forth on for sure. I actually like the Packers. I think they'll be able to keep Lamar inside, the Packers do sometimes struggle against teams that just pound the football on the inside, but the Ravens want to do a little bit of both. And I do think, the Ravens also are, effective when they're able to successfully blitz a quarterback. They're going to blitz from the inside. They're going to force Aaron Rodgers out. He's going to have to throw on the run. These are things that Aaron Rodgers does at a very high level. So not too many teams can do that and throw on the good corners of the Ravens. If there are a handful of teams that could do that, I do think Aaron Rodgers, the Packers, are one of them. So I actually like the matchup for them. You could argue the other side because there is a scenario where Lamar Jackson just runs wild and their running backs, J.K. Dobbins, just runs wild on the Packers and run the clock. So you can kind of argue both sides there. I think the Packers they're pretty good at keeping, not allowing the outside runs. Once they're through the hole, then the Packers kind of struggle on angle tackles on anything outside, but it's really not the same thing here. I can argue both sides in that game. I did go with the Browns in this one. Saturday game in Lambeau in the cold. I do think the Browns are built to play in the cold, so I don't know if that gives them that much advantage. I think this is a team that's going to pound the football inside. It's going to open up some passing options there, and the Browns actually have the complete secondary now with Myles Garrett as the pass rusher to not shut down the Packers offense, but slow them down enough. I like the matchup for the Browns there. Between the Ravens and the Browns game, I don't see, if they win both, that's huge. They just got to win one of those. I don't know if they're going to win both. Again, I got them split with the Vikings. I got them beating the Lions here. So they end up going 12-5. Tough schedule here, but they still managed to go 12-5 here. Ignore the week 19. It's trying to predict the playoffs. Going back and looking at best case scenario, I did have them starting 6-0, but maybe best case they don't lose 3 in a row here. I'd switch. They realistically beat Washington too. I just don't. They could beat the Vikings both times. I did have them beating the Rams. So you got to remember that. They could win these games, but then I did have them beating the Bears twice. I had them beating the Rams, the 49ers here. I had them beating the Ravens. I did have them losing the Browns. So it's just more about, I think best case is around that probably. We could have them, we can do something like that. I think that's around best case, 14-3. Maybe 2 losses, maybe they 15-2. It's a tougher schedule, so I don't know about that, but in that range, it's good enough. Worst case, really, they can lose the Saints in week 1. That could be a tough one. They could lose to the Niners here. They could lose to man. It's a tough schedule. I just don't see this happening, really. We can go through and look at the games they could lose, and that could really drop the record, but I just don't see that happening. So let's see. Yeah, worst case, I just don't see it happening, but realistically, worst case around 9. I could even probably pick out more games that are possible they can lose, but I just don't see it, I'd say the very, very worst case, what I have here around that range of 9 wins, again, I just don't see it. 10 wins, we'll call it bottom, unless something, crazy injury happens, of course. There was some years, few years ago, Rodgers got hurt, and of course, that changed things. But my actual predictions, I had them starting off pretty hot, obviously. And then there was that 3-game losing streak. So maybe that's a little bold that they can go on that big of a winning streak, and then just maybe that's a little bold. Hold on, let me circle back to that in a second. Had them winning this game. Yeah, so I had 12-5. Maybe if we want to change this, maybe it would look. This is my prediction. I got to stick with my prediction, but maybe something that would look a little more realistic to some. Maybe you add a loss in there to the Niners, and then you add a win in here against the Cardinals. Still 12-5. Maybe that's a little more realistic to some, but this was my prediction. Again, that Niners one, that's one that can go either way. I definitely think the Washington game's gonna be fun. The Cardinals game's gonna be fun. The Packers game's gonna be a lot of fun. Seahawks, Vikings, Rams. Look at that stretch actually at Chicago, Washington, Cardinals. Yeah, we just talked about that. Cardinals, Chiefs, Seahawks. That's a tough stretch. That's a pretty tough stretch. Yeah. So that if they come out of there with a few wins, that's obviously great. But they could definitely do that because they're a very good team. But around that 12 win range is where I have them at. So you can let me know your thoughts. I'm realizing how hard these NFC North schedules are. Vikings, Bears, Lions left to go. So yeah, excited about those as well. doing every single team. Like I said there, make sure you subscribe, click that like button, turn notifications on so you don't miss any of it. Can't wait for the upcoming videos here. Make sure you follow our Twitter, link down below for that and anything else you need. It's going to do it, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.